Football, or soccer, depending on where you're watching from, is known everywhere as the beautiful game. I mean, it's simple, it's accessible, and it's passionately loved by over 4 billion people across literally every corner of the globe. But right behind the raw passion of the fans, the tears of the players, and the absolute glory of lifting that iconic golden trophy, there is a completely different beast entirely. Welcome to This Explainer, where we are going to peel back the curtain on the single largest, most lucrative sporting event on planet Earth. Because while we, the fans, see this amazing celebration of sportsmanship, economists, well, they see a high-stakes financial gamble operating just behind the scenes. It's a world where billions of dollars change hands and entire empires of infrastructure are built seemingly overnight. Okay, let's just dive right into this with a number that is, frankly, kind of hard to even wrap your head around. $220 billion. That is the estimated expenditure when Qatar hosted the tournament back in 2022. Just to put that staggering figure into some kind of perspective for a second, that single one-month event cost more than the entire annual economic output, the total GDP of several nations combined. We're talking countries like Morocco, Slovakia, or Ecuador. It's a sum of money so incredibly large that it fundamentally and permanently alters the physical and financial landscape of whoever is hosting. And honestly, this brings us to the central mystery of our explainer today. With hundreds of billions of dollars flying around, you gotta wonder, who actually writes the checks? Who takes on all this immense risk? And most importantly, when that final whistle blows and everybody goes home, who actually walks away with the profits? We really need to figure out if this global spectacle is genuinely a goldmine of economic prosperity for the host country, or if it's perhaps one of the most brilliantly engineered financial illusions in modern history. So when a country wins the bid to host, the financial burden basically falls into two huge buckets: sports infrastructure and general infrastructure. Back in 1994, the USA hosted a highly profitable tournament, but that was largely because they already had these massive functioning stadiums ready to go. But watch what happens next. In 2010, South Africa spent about $3.5 billion. Then by 2014, Brazil hit $15 billion. Russia crossed $11 billion in 2018, and then Qatar just completely shattered all the records with that $220 billion price tag. So, why this runaway hyperinflation? Well, it's because host nations are put on a strict, completely unforgiving global deadline. They absolutely must build elite stadiums with luxury VIP suites, alongside brand new airports, highways, and metro lines. And when contractors know you literally can't delay without facing global humiliation, well, material and labor costs absolutely skyrocket.
Section 1. FIFA's risk-free monopoly.
All right, so while the host nation is drowning in construction bills and logistical nightmares, who sits at the very top of the financial pyramid? The mastermind behind the whole event is FIFA. Now, on paper, they're registered as a nonprofit organization based in Zurich, Switzerland, and their stated goal is to develop the sport. But when you really look at the mechanics of this tournament, they are running what is arguably the single most lucrative monopoly in all of sports. Just notice the stark contrast in liability here. It's an absolute masterclass in risk management. The host country takes 100% of the financial risk. They pay for every single brick of the stadiums, every mile of highway, every security guard. On the flip side, FIFA has virtually zero infrastructure overhead. They don't build the stadiums, they don't pave the roads, yet, as we're about to see, they retain the absolute majority of the direct revenue generated. Take a look at how this brilliantly structured monopoly locks down every single dollar. Broadcasters get into these fierce bidding wars, handing FIFA billions in upfront cash before a game is even played. Elite corporate sponsors pay hundreds of millions of dollars just to ensure that if a drink is sold or a credit card is swiped inside a stadium, it belongs to them and them alone. You combine all of that with the ticketing and the ultra-luxury hospitality packages, and FIFA routinely generates over $5 to $7 billion in liquid cash from a single tournament cycle. Not bad for a nonprofit, right?
Section 2. The World Cup bubble.
Now, if taking all the direct revenue wasn't enough, it actually gets a lot deeper. Because FIFA doesn't just collect the money. They use their immense leverage to squeeze the actual sovereign laws of the host country. Before a single ball is ever kicked, the host government is required to create what's known as a World Cup bubble. This is a temporary legal framework that basically grants FIFA and its corporate partners immunity from local taxes. Just imagine the absurdity of this for a second. A local cafe owner right outside the stadium is paying full municipal taxes, income taxes, and VAT. Meanwhile, a multi-billion-dollar pop-up sponsor operating right next door pays literally 0% tax to the local government. Every single dollar of profit they make just flies right out of the host country. And I think this story brilliantly illustrates the sheer legal dominance at play here. During the 2014 tournament in Brazil, the country actually had a strict federal law banning stadium alcohol for some very serious public safety reasons. However, a major FIFA corporate sponsor happened to be a massive beer company, so FIFA basically demanded that Brazil change its laws, with the general secretary stating on record that they would simply not negotiate on this. Faced with the threat of losing the tournament entirely, Brazil passed the temporary Budweiser bill, completely overriding their own federal safety laws. It really shows how immense financial interest can successfully override a sovereign nation's legislation. Section 3. Myth of the Boo. Politicians usually justify all of this spending by promising the public a massive economic boom, right? We're talking endless jobs, huge surges in tourism, a completely supercharged local economy. But when independent economists actually look at the aftermath, that political promise almost always crumbles. Let's walk through how this actually plays out in reality. First, we get what's called the crowding out effect. Regular business travelers and everyday tourists actually avoid the host country because the flights and hotels are totally congested and massively overpriced, which means total tourist numbers often don't spike at all. Second, the massive workforce you needed to build all that infrastructure, those are just temporary jobs, and they vanish overnight once the tournament officially starts. Third, while hotel room rates definitely skyrocket, the majority of those large hotels are owned by multinational chains, so those inflated profits are extracted right out of the local community and sent back to international headquarters. Ultimately, the wealth generated is hyper-concentrated at the very top, leaving pretty much only crumbs for the domestic economy. Section 4. The White Elephant Curse. But the real financial tragedy actually begins when the fans pack their bags, the banners get torn down, and the international spotlight turns off. This introduces what economists call the era of the white elephants. Now, a white elephant is a classic economic concept describing a possession that costs an absolute fortune to build and maintain, but offers zero practical utility. Remember, host cities are forced by those rules we talked about to build incredibly expensive 40,000 to 60,000 seat arenas. But in so many cases, these specific cities simply do not have local sports teams that can even come close to filling a stadium of that size on a regular weekly basis. The specific examples of this are absolutely stunning. Over in Brazil, $300 million of public money was spent to build the Arena da Amazônia deep in the rainforest. Do you know how many tournament matches it hosted? Exactly 4. Today, it sits mostly empty, costing hundreds of thousands of dollars every single month just to maintain the grass and keep the electricity running. Meanwhile, the stadium in Brasilia, which cost nearly $750 million to build, had no local team to fill it. At one point, its ground floor was literally being used as a temporary garage for city buses. Everyday citizens are essentially forced to pay a stadium tax through their municipal budgets for decades, just to keep the lights on in these massive, empty monuments to financial waste. So this begs a massive, absolutely crucial question. If the empirical data clearly shows a net negative return for the host, and long-term infrastructure maintenance is a certified nightmare, why in the world do intelligent governments and powerful leaders still compete so fiercely to host this event? Section 5. The soft power play. The answer to that question cannot be found on an economic balance sheet. Instead, we have to look to the incredibly high-stakes game of global public relations and geopolitics. The true motivation here lies in a concept termed soft power by the political scientist Joseph Nye. While hard power relies on military might or economic sanctions, soft power is a nation's ability to attract and co-opt through culture, values, and global perception. Hosting this tournament, it basically serves as a flawless, one-month-long advertisement broadcast directly into the living rooms of the entire globe. So the really crucial takeaway here is that nations willingly absorb billions in economic losses simply as the price of admission to reshape their international reputation. It allows a country to project undeniable wealth, stability, and modernization to the rest of the world. In 2018, Russia successfully hosted a flawlessly organized event that temporarily shifted the global media narrative away from geopolitical tensions, presenting an image of openness and welcoming. Similarly, Qatar's historic spending wasn't really about recouping money from ticket sales. It was about fast-tracking the nation's entry into the elite global club and securing cultural significance on the world stage. It's an incredibly powerful tool. Which leaves us with one final, deeply provocative thought to ponder. As the business of the beautiful game continues to grow and the demands placed on these host nations become ever more astronomical, we really have to ask ourselves, at what point does the price of buying a global reputation outweigh the basic financial prosperity of a nation's own citizens? It's a massive paradox, and it sits right at the heart of the world's most popular sport. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning the systems working behind the scenes.